Am I weird? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have another book review for you, and it is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. If you guys haven't seen, this is the second book of the Scholomance trilogy. The first book, A Deadly Education, I have done a book review on that. That link is above me now. As always with my book reviews, I'll read you guys the blurb first. Before we get into that, don't forget, if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Do you dare to return to the Scholomance? The dark school of magic has always done its best to devour its students, but now that Elle has reached her final year and somehow won herself a handful of allies along the way, it's suddenly developed a very particular craving for her. As the savagery of the school ramps up, Elle is determined that she will not give in, not to the malice, not to fate, and especially not to the Scholomance. But as the spectre of graduation looms, the deadly final ritual that leaves few students alive, if she and her allies are to make it out, Elle will need to realise that sometimes winning the game means throwing out all the rules. Like A Deadly Education, this has loads of great reviews on the back. We have Kieran Millwood Hargrave says, a dark, smart, delicious tale set to redefine everything you think you know about schools for magic. A Deadly Education is dangerously addictive. We have Kirsten White, Eyeball Melton, brilliant. Holly Black, a gorgeous book. Stephanie Garber, I love this brilliant book. Terry Brooks, relentlessly innovative and entertaining. And on the front we have a review from Catherine Arden, The Dark School of Magic I've been waiting for. So as I said, this is the second book of the Scholomance series. If you haven't read A Deadly Education or watched the review on that, watch that one first, because we'll be diving straight into this one. With all my book reviews, I will do spoiler-free quotes and things first, then I'll give you a spoiler alert warning and give you a time to skip to avoid the spoilers. The first quote I want to share with you guys is on page 50, and it is Elle who says, "Oh, who am I lying to? My supply of grace wouldn't overflow an acorn cap." Fantastic. Now, normally I would say the writer that does the best quotes is normally Terry Pratchett, and I always struggle because there's so many quotes I would love to tell in that book. I may as well read you guys the book. But this is like Pratchett. Elle is so sarcastic and funny that this and A Deadly Education have so many great quotes, and they are all fantastic examples of how to show rather than tell. These are the characters showing you about themselves and about other characters rather than the author telling you. I'll go back again. If you guys haven't seen my review of A Deadly Education, I went to see Naomi Novik at Mr. B's Emporium in Bath to do a talk, and it was absolutely brilliant. Naomi Novik is such a lovely person, and we did get the final book, The Golden Enclave, signed, and she was so lovely. But one thing she did say was that when she's writing, she tries to have a conversation. So she's writing in the style of conversing with you through the characters and with the characters. This is similar to David Mitchell, who is another fantastic author. I have book reviews on him. I'll put a link above me now on his books that I've done so far. And he does the same. He always says that he's in conversation with his characters. So when they are writing, it's like the characters speaking to you, which is fantastic. It really sucks you in and makes you know the character very well. I'm gonna say spoiler alert here. If you haven't read The Last Graduate and you don't want any spoilers, then skip to this time here for my overall review. If you have read it or you're happy with spoilers, then stay tuned, but spoiler alert. On page 78. First sign that Precious was becoming a familiar, she hadn't joined the frenzy. Instead, as soon as Pinky went for the burner, she'd run up my shoulder and jumped onto a high shelf of the lab, where she tipped a large beaker over herself and sat there disapprovingly watching the other mice. Wonderful. Elle is now in alliance with Leo and Adia. Now Leo used to be a Malefica. She used to take power and mana from mice. And it turns out Elle was right. She did bring a supply of mice in with her, but she didn't want to. So when Elle did a purifying spell, that also purified Leo, and it made her have a fresh start, and she decided to go with that and refused to go back to being a Malefica. because of that, she had some random pet mice, which she was turning into familiars because her affinity is actually with animals. So she's making a familiar for Elle and Adia as well. And that means they have to spend a lot of time with these mice. Now, Elle thought it wasn't going very well because her mouse seemed to be behind the others. And yeah, I think her mouse has just really got in the sarcasm of Elle and reacts the same way that Elle would to a situation. And this is just a pure, perfect example of that, where they've put a sort of honey beacon for the mals to come to, but what's actually happened is it's brought the familiars to it and they really want it. But Elle's mouse is the only one that didn't join the frenzy. They smelt it and they hid themselves under a beaker and they watched the other mice be idiots until it stopped. I love it. On page 93, a normal person would have been terrified to find out about nuclear bomb me waiting to go off. Magnus decided that he quite fancied bringing a tidy nuclear bomb home to his parents. I love this. This is that the Enclavers and the other people in Elle's year group at the Scholomance have found out about her amazing abilities and strength. Now, most people would be scared of that because she can literally destroy the school in one go. She could kill all of them, no problem. She could reach for your mana and just take it. She doesn't, but she could. But Magnus, who Elle has always hated, actually likes this idea and wants to bring her back to the New York Enclave to show his mom and use that power to protect the New York Enclave against the others. Now, this could create a war between enclaves. So at this point in the book, we know that outside of the Scholomance, the reason the students are in the Scholomance is because teenage wizards apparently smell very tasty to males, and that attracts them. So outside of the school, most of them would have died. They have a better chance of survival in the Scholomance, even though there is so many of them in one place, it attracts so many males. The school itself tries to protect them better than being outside. Now, the Enclave kids, they live in a commune of other wizards. Now, this means that they have protection, that they come in with mana sharers, and they have all the supplies they can want, all of these things, which independent wizards like Elle do not have. So the independent wizards obviously cannon fodder for the Mal Suite rather than the Enclaves. So a lot of the independents really want to get into this Enclave for protection, and the New York one happens to be one of the biggest. Elle doesn't want this. She thought she did. She no longer does. Magnus now wants her in it. And basically, if she joined an Enclave, that would make the other Enclaves scared of New York and think that she's going to destroy them. So they would rather kill Elle off and get rid of her than for her to join any specific Enclave, unless you're the one that thinks you're going to get them, which New York really thinks they will because of Orion. On page 156, he did manage to catch a nice fat polyphonic shrieker in one of the sophomore girls' bathrooms a couple of weeks after field day. I understood there was a lot of non-Maleficaria shrieking while he chased it through the communal showers during the evening rush, although no one really objected to him barging in on them, given the alternative had a lot more tentacles and smelled even worse than Unwashed Boy, which he wasn't anymore by the time that fight ended. I love this. So Orion, in The Last Graduate, has actually been struggling to find mals to kill. They're not there. We know it's because they've been attacking Elle and not him, but he can't get them. Now, Orion really wants to kill these mals. He wants the mana from them. He can soak that in. So when he finds one, he goes for it. And it just happens that the one that he did find went into the girls' bathroom. And I just absolutely love the description of it. That is just one small paragraph, and yet it creates a full image. That could be a chapter on its own of following Orion through this. But Naomi Novik's been very clever and not bothered to write a massive chapter just on one fight. She's just made a paragraph of perfection to inform you about it from Elle's point of view, and it's just perfect. It really is. Page 179 to 180. Do you even know when your last period was? I just love that Naomi Novik is going to talk about periods. If you've seen my review on Bridget Collins' The Betrayals, you'll know I raved about how that book talks about periods, because it's something 50% of the population goes through every month of their life, from the ages of, it can be as young as 10 sometimes, until 60 or so. It's a lot of your life, and it's never spoke about in books, and yet in all epic fantasies, somehow it's just presumed women get on with that and deal with that. And we all know in reality, you'd have to do something about that. You'd have pain, there'd be blood, lots of problems would occur. And The Betrayals was one of the first books I read about it and how they were dealing with it. And I absolutely raved about that. And Naomi Novik has done the same, and it's fantastic. I will continue with this quote. Whenever the first signs show up, you brew yourself a nice go the fuck away tea. Can I please have this tea? Others keep a sharp eye on the timing because theirs starts with blood spotting and you don't want Miles to get a good whiff of that. But my first symptom is a nice sharp cramp in the midsection, completely unmistakable, and it arrives with a good 5-hour warning. I love this because not only is Naomi Novik talking about how you deal with a period, about the consequences that Miles will come for you, but women have different ways their body tells them it's coming. Some people literally don't get any warning at all. Some people have blood spotting. Some people get a cramp a few hours or so before it. And I absolutely love it because I feel included in this book because I get a beautiful, lovely, horrible, nice stabbing cramp in my midsection about an hour or two before it's going to start. Elle gets the same thing. It's just great because it's not talked about. I mean, I can't even remember in school, even during sex education and things, while they separate you boys and girls, even being told of the different ways that your period can show up, of the different ways people are going to feel it. I always thought I was just weird because it tells me, which I thought was odd. And I used to go deathly white. I got put on really high level pain relief because mine are just horrible, and they didn't stop being that horrible until I went on the contraceptive pill, which can help stop cramps. Who knew? They don't tell you that bit. I found out, luckily, because my mom is a nurse. So luckily I was told this so I could get it as soon as I turned 16. Pain relief more than anything else at the time for me. But I don't remember this kind of thing being talked about, even in sex education. So reading about it in books, it's perfect because people can get to that knowledge without judgment, happily. And it's not just women who will read this. Men can read it and also find out what happens during periods, of what thought processes go on. Because there are guys out there who just don't know. I'm really lucky. Matt knows, Matt cares, Matt's great. There's lots of guys out there who just don't know and they are scared to know sometimes. So you can find out about it in a lovely book about death and blood and gore and periods. On page 199, it was still beautiful, but it was the kind of beautiful that normally you only get to see in person if you spend a week hauling yourself up a mountain with a backpack longer than your torso. This just made me laugh. Carrying a backpack longer than your torso. I mean, it's true. Proper hiking with all of your gear on your back to get to the view that you can only see if you hike for like 5 days. Page 317. We can't find anything better than bloody wrapping the thing in tinfoil. The Aglos like that stuff so much they'll eat all of it before they bother going into the artifice. Now, I have a theory, and I forgot about this when I spoke with Naomi Novik, so I might need to actually comment on a picture or something and mention this idea. So the Aglos, they found that these little creatures are the ones that keep eating and destroying the equipment for the firewall that goes through the graduation hall. And apparently they're quite harmless. They just like to eat mechanical things. So they're not scary to wizards other than they're going to break all your crap. Now the Enclaves have been trying to work out a way to stop these guys doing this. And they said that all they found is that you give them tinfoil instead and they like that more than machinery. Now, this is not what they do in the book. But I'd want to know, please comment down below, am I the only one who thought of this? Because they've talked about killing them, everything. I thought, why don't they just make them a nice big bowl and, twice a year, just go down there, fill it full of tinfoil, and they just eat that. And then you just refill it for them. And then they won't eat the machinery. I think, in my head, this is very cute and plausible. Am I weird? My final, it's not a quote, but my final thing is from page 342. Now, this is a huge spoiler, guys, but skip if you want to. The time is here again, if you don't want to hear it. Big spoiler. I love how Orion thinks that if they have sex, he's going to suck all the mana out of her. He's such a sweetie pie. Oh, bless him. How cute is that? You can't say that's not cute. It's adorable. Now, I do want to discuss, if you haven't read this book, please skip to this time here. Seriously, if you haven't read it, skip to this time here. I don't normally give away spoilers like I'm about to spoil this one. The reason is because it's one of the most talked about things with this book, so please skip to this time here if you haven't read this book. If you have read this book, You guys gonna know what's coming. The last line. Orion says to Elle, I love you so much. And then he shoved me through the gate. That last line has caused a lot of readers so much distress, it was quite funny. I actually saw that coming. For me, that is a massive cliche, but one that does work really well, and I'm happy with it. Like A Deadly Education, it's a fantastic last line to make you read the next book. It is a proper cliffhanger, so very good writing. It's gonna sell the next book. Loads of people hated it because they were like, you can't just leave the book there. Which Naomi Novik's response was, yes I can. Which made everyone in the room laugh so much when she said that. It was fantastic. It didn't shock me, that ending, because I could see that coming. It had to happen. It just had to. Like, you needed that drama, and it was the only thing that would have made sense. There was no other way. If they left happily ever after, then what would be the point? That would not make you want the next one. It would not leave you thirsty for more, whereas this leaves you... I mean, Matt has been going mad. Matt is desperate to read that third book. He's probably going to read it before me just because he's seriously so desperate to read that book. So I think it's a fantastic last line, but what do you guys think? Please comment down below. I know it was a massive controversy when Naomi Novik did it. I think it took guts and I think it needed to happen. It was a tad of a trope because we all know the tropes. They do it in TV all the time of you say I love you and then that's it. The question is Orion going to come back or is Orion dead? Because it's a young adult, in my opinion, which normally means, yes, disaster strikes. If you didn't learn from Shadow and Bone, no matter how much a character seems dead in a YA, if they're the protagonist's love interest, there's a high chance they could come back. Will Orion come back or not? That's what I'm questioning, more so than being shocked at the end. I want to know, does he come back or is he dead? Because if he comes back, that's fitting into that trope. If it doesn't come back, then that's a new trope. And that's something Naomi Novik was talking about, is how she generally likes to subvert tropes a lot. Which if you haven't seen on my video on tropes, that link is above me now. I've done videos on tropes and cliches and how to write tropes well. And one of the ways to do that is to subvert them, which Naomi Novik is an expert on. Welcome back if you've joined us from the spoiler-free section. I'm now just going to do an overall review of my last thoughts on The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is a great second book to A Deadly Education. It leaves you on a cliffhanger. It makes you want to read the third. Starts yet again with a great opening line. Continues the characters. All the characters have a really good character arc. The story develops really well. It all feels very natural. And you learn so much in it. It's so good. Considering that the entire book takes place in a school year, stuck inside the Scholar Man, so there's no external things going on. And yet, you can't put this book down. It's a very fast read. So I would give this book a 10 out of 10 stars. Highly recommend it. If you've read A Deadly Education, read this one. If you read A Deadly Education, and I do know some people have felt this way, and you didn't quite get on with the protagonist, Elle, read this one. Because I think you might grow to like her more. Just saying. Give it a try. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel because I see since I upload. Click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!